Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Werner on Security. In this video I'm going to show you how to solve a web exploitation CTF challenge from Pico CTF 2021. The challenge is called Get Ahead. Before we dive into the challenge, I want to quickly introduce you to Pico CTF. Pico CTF is a free computer security education program that will teach you basic cybersecurity skills. Pico CTF is created by security experts at Carnegie Mellon University, which is one of the top universities in the world for computer science and cybersecurity. They have designed original content built on a capture the flag framework. This means that you will have to solve various challenges that involve finding hidden flags in different scenarios. Pico CTF is beginner friendly, so you don't need any prior experience with cybersecurity to participate. You can, for example, learn the basics of cryptography, web exploitation, binary exploitation, and forensics in the Pico Gym, which is a collection of practice problems. The program is designed to be accessible to everyone. You can learn at your own pace and on your own schedule. Pico CTF is completely free to use. If you haven't already, you can sign up for an account at www.picoctf.org. You find a link in the video description below. Alright, let's move on to the actual challenge from Pico CTF 2021, which I've decided to walk through today. This one is called Get Ahead, and it belongs to the web exploitation category. The task is to find the flag being held on the server to get ahead of the competition. You find a link to the challenge in the video description below. Here is the challenge that we'll try to solve. Let's start the application. Let's open the developer tools and the network tab so that we can see what's going on. As you can see, we have two boxes with a button in each box. Let's start by clicking the buttons. So when we click each button, the background color is changed accordingly. When clicking the Choose Red button, a GET request is sent to the server. However, when clicking the Choose Blue button, a POST request is triggered. So that seems a bit odd. I would typically expect both requests to be GET requests, since we don't submit any input data to the server. If you remember, the challenge is called Get Ahead. Get Ahead. Both get and head are HTTP request methods or verbs. Since there seems to be something fishy going on with the HTTP verbs, I think the next step would be to try out some different HTTP verbs and see what happens. Before we do that, I'd like to give a quick explanation of what HTTP verbs are. HTTP request methods are ways of communicating with a web server. The HTTP request method indicates the purpose for which the client has made this request. The most common one is GET, which requests a resource from the server. For example, when you type a URL in your browser, you are sending a GET request. We saw that the GET request was used when we clicked the Choose Red button. The HTTP request method also indicates what is expected by the client as a successful result. As an example, the GET method requests a representation of the specified resource. Let's look at the different HTTP request methods available and what their purposes are. We already briefly touched upon the GET method. The GET method requests a representation of the specified resource. Requests using GET should only retrieve data. This is the default method used by web browsers when you type a URL or click on a link. GET requests can be bookmarked, cached, and saved in browser history. GET is likely the most commonly used HTTP request method. The HEAD method asks for a response identical to a GET request, but without the response body. This is usually used to check if a resource exists or get some metadata about it without downloading it. All general-purpose servers must support the methods get and head. All other methods are optional. The post method is the most common HTTP request method next to get. The post method submits an entity to the specified resource, often causing a change in state or side effect on the server. This is typically used when submitting forms or uploading files. Post requests cannot be bookmarked, cached, or saved in browser history. They have no length restrictions and can send binary data as well as ASCII data. The put method replaces all current representations of the target resource with the request payload. This is usually used to update or create resources on the server. The delete method deletes the specified resource. This is usually used to remove resources from the server. The connect method establishes a tunnel to the server identified by the target resource. This is usually used to create secure connections using SSL TLS protocols through proxies that may block them otherwise. The options method describes the communication options for the target resource. This is usually used to check what methods are supported by the server or what headers are allowed in requests and responses. The trace method performs a message loopback test along the path to the target resource. This is usually used for debugging purposes by showing what modifications have been made by intermediaries along the way to the server. These are some of the most common HTTP request methods that you will encounter when doing web exploitation challenges or visiting websites in general. Knowing how they work and how they differ from each other will help you understand how web servers communicate with clients and how you can manipulate them to your advantage. As I said earlier, the next step in trying to solve the challenge would be to try out some different HTTP verbs and see what happens. For this purpose, we can use a man-in-the-middle proxy. A man-in-the-middle proxy is a powerful tool that can help us intercept and inspect messages sent between a browser and a web application. This allows us to see what requests and responses look like, what headers and parameters are used, what cookies are set, what data is transmitted, etc. This can be very useful for debugging, testing, or trying to manipulate web applications. But that's not all. A man-in-the-middle proxy can also modify content before forwarding it to its destination. This means we can change requests on the fly, inject malicious code or data, alter headers or parameters, spoof cookies or sessions, etc. This can be very powerful for exploiting vulnerabilities or bypassing security mechanisms. Now that we've covered the basics needed to solve the challenge, you could pause the video and try to solve the challenge by yourself. The man-in-the-middle proxy that I'll use for trying out a number of HTTP verbs is OWASP SAP. Let's select Manual Explore, and then we need to enter the URL to explore. Then we click Launch Browser. This launches Firefox and navigates to the entered URL. Now we want to trigger the HTTP request that we want to test for. So let's trigger blue. Let's go back to OWASP SAP and see what happened. So here we see the request that got triggered when I clicked the blue button. Now we want to try for different HTTP verbs. So we right-click the request and then we select attack, and we can use the fuzzer. In the tab Fuzz Locations, we select the HTTP verb, so post, and then we click add. We click add again. We use the type strings and then we enter the values that we want to test for. So let's stick to the ones that we talked about earlier. So we test for get, head, post, put, delete, connect options, and trace. Let's click the add button and confirm by clicking OK. Now we're ready to start the fuzzer. So click Start Fuzzer. Here we see the results. So all the calls got the 200 OK status back. And the size of the response is more or less identical for all calls except head, which is expected since head shouldn't really return a body. Let's inspect this response. And here we see that we have retrieved the flag. So, as I suspected from the start, based on the name of the CTF challenge, it was the head request that yielded the flag. So let's copy paste this. And let us put this into the submission form and submit. Hooray! So we earned 20 points and solved the challenge. The technique that we use to retrieve the flag is called HTTP verb tampering. Now that we've solved the challenge, let's summarize the main lessons learned. We have covered 3 topics related to web exploitation: HTTP request methods or verbs, a man-in-the-middle proxy, and HTTP verb tampering. HTTP request methods, verbs, are keywords that indicate the purpose for which the client has made a request and what is expected by the client as a successful result. We have discussed some of the most common HTTP methods, such as get, post, put, delete, head, options, connect, and patch. A man-in-the-middle proxy is a piece of software that sits between the browser and the web application and can intercept and inspect messages sent between them. We have also seen how it can modify content before forwarding it to its destination. HTTP verb tampering is a technique that exploits the fact that some web servers or applications do not check or enforce the use of proper HTTP methods for certain actions. For example, some web servers may allow changing or deleting resources with a GET request instead of a PUT or DELETE request. This can lead to unauthorized access or modification of data by sending malicious requests with unexpected HTTP methods. In the challenge, we were able to retrieve the flag by using a different HTTP request method than the one used by the web application. These are some of the basic concepts and skills that you need to know if you want to get into web exploitation. Of course, there's much more to learn and practice in this field, but I hope this walkthrough has given you some useful insights and tips on how to start your journey. If you haven't already, I definitely recommend you join PicoCTF today and continue your learning. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to add a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more videos on CTFs and other security-related topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.